The Late Morning Program with Nam Ras Podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. You're listening to Late Morning Program. Well, actually, no, I'm rebranding, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Late Morning Program was a kind of a joke kind of title, but now everyone refers it to as the Nam Ras Podcast.
Can you explain the joke? Because I don't know if the joke translates. Like, Prabhu, we'll introduce the guests in just a moment, but we'll just dive in here. Not to put you on the spot, but do you get the joke? Like, Late Morning Program.
The Late Morning Program.
Right? So why don't you explain the joke?
The morning program,
There's nothing like explaining a joke, by the way, to like kill it, right?
Yeah, and make crickets.
Yeah.
So the morning program, Prabhupada's morning program, but that starts at 4 and ends at 9 or a.m. or whatever. But this is the late morning program. So and the way programs are like the late night show with whoever host it is. So it's a play on those words. The late,
it's like in America, right? Like these talk shows are very late at night.
Yeah,
so okay.
Anyways,
but we're getting rid of that.
Yes. So you're listening to the Nam Ras podcast. I'm so deeply honored, Vrajabihari Prabhu, that you're joining me here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nam Ras Prabhu. Thank you, Venkat Bhatt Prabhu.
I'm here also with my co-host, Vyankata Bhatt. Yeah.
I'm feeling so grateful. I'm actually, I'm feeling overwhelmed in one sense because I've seen not all, but many of your podcasts, and I'm like, wow. He's so good. And the guests are so good. And some of those podcasts I've seen a few times, like
Thank you so
Kadam
much.
Maharaj ones and Sutapa Prabhu, Keshav Maharaj, of course, same.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm watching it again and again, and I feel I'm meeting a celebrity.
No, I feel the same way, Prabhu. I've seen you a lot. I was in Chowpatty in 2006 for a month. I stayed.
Oh.
I mean, you were doing your services and things when I was like a kid practically, but I do remember you and hearing your name and things. But could we first start off maybe by telling the audience maybe a little bit about your background, kind of what you were telling me earlier, but for the audience?
Okay, I come from a temple town in India called Udupi.
Oh, really?
From the Madhva Sampradaya.
Right.
My maternal grandfather was a priest in the temple. My paternal grandfather was a teacher to the Udupi sannyasis and all of that. So I grew up in Udupi for the first 10 years of my life in the temple premises, eating prasadam and
wow.
All of that. And we are part of the Madhva Sampradaya. And then when I was 11, I came to Mumbai. And since then, I'm a made in Mumbai product now.
Wow.
And and then when I came to ISKCON in 1997, 98, since then I joined the ashram at that time. And then I've been doing book distribution and initially, then youth preaching, congregation preaching, DT worship, writing articles for BTG, and taking care of the ashram services. And
And this is all in the Radha Gopinath community.
Radha Gopinath community.
Chowpatty.
And I also visit the satellite centers connected to Radha Gopinath temple like Nasik, Nigadi, nearby places.
Right.
And I travel internationally twice in a year to UK, and then I come to US.
You're also an accomplished author as well.
Not accomplished, but
Number of how many books have you written?
Five. That's great. 4, 5. Yeah, 5 books. Yeah.
Really, really nice. Before we get into any of the topics, when you were speaking about the Madhvas, I was having a conversation with a friend, and how as Gaudiyas, we call ourselves the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. But when my friend spoke to some Madhvas, they say that we're not actually part of the Madhva Sampradaya.
Namas goes like right into
I'm sorry.
any kind of Sampradaya controversy, he's there.
No, I'm really sorry.
Madhva, you say. That reminds me.
I knew Namras means controversy, and you just...
I'm really sorry. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Because you're from that family, so the best to hear it from you, right?
I'll tell you. Madhvas have they have very poor opinion about Gaudiyas, and they think one of the Madhva scholars, he just shouted at me. He said, "You say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Channa avatar. He's a hidden incarnation. So keep him hidden."
Damn. That's a solid burn.
That is a burn. Like, why are you talking about him? He's not God. And then I knew that I can't. In fact, my father would tell me all the time.
Right.
Like we say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Udupi and he preached to the Tattvavadis and he told them about pure devotional service. And they say exactly the opposite. They say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Udupi and he was dancing and chanting. And then our Vadiraja Tirtha instructed him to go to Puri and make it his headquarters. And so they give a completely different version. So then that's why I stopped debating with them. And I'm grateful to Madhvacharya because I come from that sampradaya.
Sure.
And we worship Krishna. But honestly, it's because of Srila Prabhupada that I know about Madhvacharya very clearly. Like when I was a kid, you know how what I thought of Madhvacharya. I should tell you this. See, we worship Madhvacharya as a saint and, you know, part of our tradition. And then, you know, I've seen this painting of Madhvacharya. You have this sign like this.
Yes.
Basically it's saying Jiva and God are different. You know? It's like sitting like this straight.
Yes.
So that's very, it's a very commanding kind of a position, and, you know, he's grave. So I remember as a kid, I didn't know anything of the philosophy of Madhvacharya, but I knew he was Madhvacharya. I have to offer obeisances. And because as a kid, you know, I would be eating all the time. So my grandmother would tell me, you should not eat all the time. See, Madhvacharya is saying you should eat only 2 times a day. So I grew up, trust me, you know, till I came to ISKCON, somewhere I thought Madhvacharya was telling us you should eat twice a day.
Oh my God.
So basically I come from a simple family, you know, although my paternal grandfather I grew up with my maternal grandfather was a priest. And they never educated me on the teachings of Madhvacharya as much as the culture. So then I come to ISKCON and I understand, wow, this means, you know, soul and God are different and we are with the Madhvas and, you know, we are not Mayavadis. So I'm very grateful to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's clarity, the way he presented, that increased my faith in Madhvacharya actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it. Did you have anything more to say about that?
Not so much that.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it is kind of interesting, right?
You know what? Honestly, I just want to say something.
Yeah.
I'm feeling so, I would say embarrassed also in one sense, because I have always been in awe of both of you.
Oh, Prabhu,
and you're asking me questions.
Oh, Prabhu, come on.
And I'm supposed to be hearing from you. I want to hear. I can hear you the whole day. Trust me.
No,
I'm feeling you're putting me, you know, in this position, and as if I know a lot of things and I'm answering.
You're our senior.
Don't worry. After this, we'll read you some of the like angry and insulting tweets and comments that we get, but what people out there really think of us, and it'll put everything into context.
Yeah,
it'll humble us. You're kind of lifting us up, but don't worry. There's a whole comment section to bring us down.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But they won't be directed at you, I'm sure. I'm actually a little bit curious on a different track, and I don't know how many people talk about this, but the Chaupati temple, kind of, speaking of like being in awe of celebrities, as far as like temples and communities, sometimes this community kind of has that, especially at a certain time in sort of ISKCON history, where it was like, oh, the Chaupati temple, the counselor system, the brahmacharya ashram, there's like more brahmacharis there than like anywhere else. I don't know, you know, these days, maybe there's lots of centers, lots of communities like that. But there was a time where it was almost like, to invoke, at least for us, to invoke the name Chaupati was like, oh, wow, like one of those, like, you know, golden, shining brahmacharis from Chaupati, the simple temple and all of that. And you lived through and, you know, you continue to be based there. Could you give us like an insider's kind of look into that and you know, kind of beyond some of the hype? Or did you ever get that experience where you were sort of, you know, you heard people talking about it that way and you're like, but that's just home for me?
Yeah, when I joined also, I was in a lot of awe and reverence of the ashram because we had very highly educated brahmacharis, doctors and IITians. And
It was like an IIT brain drain, right? I think there was like actually
a lot of educated devotees.
Yeah.
And then what happened also, interesting, we also had, you know, a lot of brahmacharis from a simple Indian village background. And it's interesting, you know, now we have on the one hand, highly educated, English-speaking, and you know, very smart brahmacharis, and very talented, gifted, but Marathi-speaking and you know, native language. So there was an interesting, not exactly a pronounced tension, but there was, you know, like somebody would feel a little inferior. So the vision of our leaders was amazing, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, you know, they created 2 ashrams then, you know, nearby. In a satellite center where those who are not from the English background or those who feel a little uncomfortable with this kind of group. So for them an ashram was created. And then they flourished there. They created a temple. In Nigidi, for example, they created a temple with, I mean, generally, you know, the project cost escalates. But they kind of, you know, an amazing temple, Radha Govinda temple in Nigidi, created by these devotees who are not from IIT. And they didn't take, they kind of did the whole thing. And I remember when Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj came there, and he was so fascinated by the temple structure and everything. And he said, who is the main brain behind this? And somebody introduced him to Radha Prasad Prabhu, who is a very self-effacing, shy brahmachari who's from the villages of Maharashtra and is standing behind. And Maharaj looked at him and said, oh, are you from IIT? And then I said, Maharaj, no, he's from ITI. ITI is like, where young boys, they study all these skills like carpentry and skills. In India.
Like a vocation, we would call it like vocational college or something. Yeah.
And they're so intelligent, so talented. But they wouldn't have flourished and they wouldn't have contributed to Prabhupada's mission the way they did in these village settings, in spreading Krishna consciousness as they would have done in Mumbai. So then, of course, then that happened. And then the other ashrams opened up in Nasik, Nigadi and other places. So, and then in Mumbai, we had primarily devotees joining who were from Mumbai area or who studied in Mumbai. So that kind of, then everybody had the same kind of, wavelength, understanding. So that helped. But yes, and then not everyone is highly educated and, smart and all that kind of, but everybody is sincere. And everybody is unique in our ashram. And it's interesting, I want to share this thing. When I joined, I come from a family where, I was like shy and in my own space. And suddenly I'm thrown into a place where there are people from different cultures.
Right.
There's a Punjabi, Sardar background. And he's like, he's dancing and very expressive. And the South Indian Brahman who is very shy. So in the Kirtans, it's interesting. In the Kirtan, the Sardar devotee from Sardar background, in front of everyone, he makes fun of this shy South Indian Brahman devotee and hits him hard on the back and pulls him into the Kirtan and makes him dance. And the South Indian brahmachari thinks that, this guy is so egoistic and he's so arrogant. And then I try to mediate between the two. And this Punjabi devotee says, well, I did that in front of everyone because I love him.
Right. But that was his way of showing affection.
I show my love like this. If I really didn't like him, if he really thinks I'm bad, I would have ignored him.
Right.
So everybody is different, And there is another brahmachari who's been in our ashram now for 35 plus years. And he's always very grave. He's like, we call him the angry young man. And he's never loving, He's not, he won't speak mushy things. He won't say things like, I love you, Prabhu. He's always a man of action.
Right.
And I thought when I joined, I thought brahmacharis means they're very loving and caring. And I thought love means, you should be kind, you should speak. You should, and humility means, I had this idea that brahmachari is humble. Means humility has got a lot to do with the look in the eyes and the tone in the voice and your body posture. This is what I thought humility was. And I remember when I joined, there was a brahmachari. Of course, he was thrown out of the temple later. And when he left on his own, he was always like this. Hare Krishna Prabhu. And I thought he was very humble. But then when I had the service of getting service done, and I would ask him, Prabhu, will you do this service? He would always say, no. he would not do any service. And he was always humble. So then it challenged my idea of humility. Then one day I said, okay, 15 minutes service. That's it. Just stand there and give Charanamrit. I wanted him to do something. And he's like, no, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Wow.
And then there's brahmachari who's an angry young man, always serving. And he would come and tell me, you are educated guys coming from cities. You guys are, lazy people. You can't do hard service. And then one day I got a back spasm, shoulder pain. And I was like, And then he comes up to me and he's senior to me by 10 years. And we are not supposed to take service from our seniors. We are supposed to serve our seniors. But he comes up to me, he takes an ointment and he massages me for 1 hour. And I'm like resisting, but he has strong arms. And he does that. He never told me even once he loves me. But he's serving. So basically, the Brahmachari Ashram has taught me a lot about love, about service, community living. So not everybody is from IIT and intelligent, but everybody is sincere, serving sincerely. And I see this amazing aspects of love coming out. So these are few examples of our ashram.
I always think about the point of that in a temple atmosphere, no one's getting paid per se, because so then how do you encourage people to do service? Like you said, like the devotees, 15 minutes, just do 15 minutes. He says, no, you can't do anything in one sense. You can't do anything. So as a leader or as being their brahmachari, I'm sure you had people under you. How do you inspire people to do hard services or services in general, even because it's a complete volunteer organization, right?
Yeah. Generally the spiritual sadhana, that's what the spiritual. There are two things. One is the spiritual and the second is the emotional aspect. The sadhana, the morning program, the chanting, hearing, it's extremely powerful because when we are chanting and hearing, we're actually with Krishna. And I was reading a long time ago, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu's article on community, how to raise a community from Kanishta to Madhyama. He explains how hearing and chanting is the foundation. So when there is a common commitment to sadhana as a community, so this is what Chaupati's main strength has been in our ashram. For years, and actually for decades, the sadhana is emphasized a lot. And we grew up with intense, hearing, chanting. So that actually nourishes, because Krishna in the heart, the Bhagavatam says that Krishna in the heart directs you. So that is one. And that is one way the brahmacharis are inspired, if they get good spiritual nourishment. Even now we have on Ekadashis extra chanting, and we kind of promote sadhana, spiritual activities. And the second thing is the emotional care. If the brahmacharis feel loved, if they... And you don't need much to please brahmacharis, just giving them time. Like for example, we take lunch together. I remember many years ago, Radhanath Swami Maharaj on his birthday, he was turning 60 that time. And he said something very interesting. He said, I'm a 60-year-old man. And you want to give me a birthday gift? The best birthday gift you can give me is all of you please come together and take lunch every day. And I was like, what is he saying? I'm young, passionate. It didn't make much sense to me. And then, as if anticipating what I was thinking, he says, well, even if you don't understand and appreciate what I'm saying, please listen to this old man. And please know that there is some wisdom in what I'm saying. So at that time, I didn't understand much. But now I'm turning 50. I'm 50 now. I'm actually turned 50 now. Oh, wow. So now when I look back, I say, wow, that was amazing. Just taking lunch together, there is camaraderie developed. There is friendship and bonding developed. Mm-hmm. So I guess these two things, emotional connect and the spiritual program is what inspires people to serve.
Yeah. And the humility part, you said it kind of changed your view of humility. Humility is not just an external thing.
Yeah, actually.
Jump in if you have any.
Sure. No, I'm just too humble.
Yeah, humility is not, it's like somebody told me once, humility is like an underwear. You wear it, but you don't show it to everyone.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know devotees who are very externally aggressive, in a sense, not aggressive, assertive, I would say. And also,
assertive, yeah.
Also they're outgoing and they're wonderful. They love Prabhupada, they love Krishna, and they take risks and they serve. Their language of love is service. So I guess even external mannerisms is needed. We need etiquette, of course. We need to be humble. Yeah. But I was just giving a graphic example, an extreme example of that's not what defines humility.
Yeah, I love that connection also too. And I know we were speaking about this earlier, the love languages. And I don't know if everyone's familiar. There's a certain framework that was developed by, I think his name is Gary Chapman, where he identifies 5 particular love languages. But just the idea in general that we all express and receive love in different ways. And so I love also in your story about the kind of angry young man, persona, but he expressed love to you in this way that was very, that was an act of service, that had a physical component to it. And that it just wasn't his way of saying, I love you, but he showed it. And so just discovering that in the setting of like an ashram, I think is, it's a nice reminder that we're all individuals. I wanted to ask you a little bit about being in such a large ashram, right? I don't know, how many brahmacharis are there?
We are around 80 now.
Okay.
In Chapati.
And so being, one of 80 in this setting, but then also, did you ever feel lonely?
Yeah, I must be honest. Loneliness is a part of life. Even grahasthas feel lonely.
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I remember once I was giving a talk at Lincoln in England, and I think the same question was asked by the panelist. So have you ever felt lonely? And I said, yeah, I sometimes do feel lonely. And immediately one lady in the audience, she raised her hand and she said, if you feel lonely, then why don't you get married? I said, I'm feeling lonely, but I'm happy.
Wow.
It's like this, it's like, okay, you take a day, you take a day like this. If you say this is the length of a day, or okay, and then for some time, somewhere in patches, you may feel lonely, but look at the rest of the day.
Right.
You're blissful serving Krishna. But I guess loneliness, yeah, I have felt lonely, but I would say that has made me appreciate life more, and that has made me more human. I would say more empathetic to others, more empathetic to grahasthas also. And also it helped me redefine happiness. Generally, we in this world, happiness is defined as something, you need to be always happy. You need to be, I think being stimulated is considered as happiness in many places. I remember once I told someone I'm not happy today, and he thought I'm something wrong with me. He said, Prabhu, can you be part of this meeting we are having today? I said, no, Prabhu, today I'm very unhappy. I need a time for myself. If you're unhappy, what happened? I said, I'm not happy today, but I'll be all right tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like seasons. There is rainy season, there is summer, there is winter, all seasons. And I think that makes a year complete. And so similarly, life has all emotions, See, our inability to accept life with all its emotions is, I think, what makes us more miserable. So yeah, loneliness.
Sorry, say that part again.
I mean, our inability to express life with all its emotions,
right,
actually makes us more miserable. We need to accept life with all its components. Like, okay, I'll give an example. Are you both parents?
Yes.
Okay, very stupid question. Do you love your children? Do you love your child? You say, of course. What do you mean? Yeah. Okay, now, is happiness the only emotion you experience with your child?
I have a teenager, so you can guess.
What are the different emotions?
A range of emotions, right?
Like anger.
Every day is a roller coaster ride.
Frustration.
Anger, frustration.
Totally.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's what I'm saying. Life is like that. I love Krishna. I love the ashram. I love the brahmachari's ashram. But yeah, life has its way of sobering you, humbling you, and teaching us that this is not a permanent home. We need to go back to Krishna. So happiness, basically, you can be in love and not be happy always,
and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I do feel lonely, but I have my own way of navigating through it. But I guess everybody has their ups and downs. It's seasons. It's a cycle. So it's okay. Accept life completely, and then you become happy, peaceful.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that point, because I feel like there's, especially in spiritual communities, there's almost like a social pressure, right? If you're doing this right, if you're practicing, especially if I can only imagine, I've never actually, I have to confess, I've never formally lived like in a brahmachari ashram as a brahmachari, but I can only imagine it's so much more intense, or it can be, where there's that expectation of like, come on, you're like living the like full-time Krishna conscious life. Shouldn't you be blissful and happy all the time?
Yeah. And not only that, you are expected to be blissful and happy all the time. And you're also supposed to have a lot of, you can never be disoriented. Like you always need to have clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to have a lot of, like, I'll give an example. Like for example, let's say you're sick, okay?
Yeah.
And you're confused and disoriented, okay? And then your wife or your spouse or your somebody, in a house, your parents, they give you, okay, take an orange juice and this will be good for you. And because you're disoriented, you're irritated.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't want it. Take it away. So then, if your wife really loves you, she'll give you a sauce. She'll say, take it. And she will chastise you, She will admonish you. And you can throw your tantrums. She will tell you your nonsense. She'll tell you, when you've spoken nonsense, she'll tell you it is nonsense. And she will hear more of your nonsense and she'll be there with you. That's part of ashram, grahastha ashram life. Now, if I am sick and somebody comes with an orange juice, we have a medical team, he comes. And I say, I'm irritated. And I say, I don't want it. He'll take it away. So I better be in control of myself. I can't afford to be disoriented. I can't afford to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds exhausting.
So that's exhausting. So what we need is, for the renounced order, we need to be at least authentic to ourselves. Maybe let the world think who we are. But I need to know I get disoriented. I need to know I am ordinary. I can't believe what they're saying. I mean, I can't live my life based on their expectations. I remember once in our ashram, I just remember this incident because I may forget it later. Very interesting. We were a few brahmacharis sitting in the corridor of the ashram. And a very senior grahastha, I don't know if you know, in our community we have a devotee called Ananda Vrindavan Prabhu. He's been chanting, like he chants every day 32 rounds. He's like a namacharya, He chants 192, 64 and all of that.
Wow.
He's very much loved by the devotees. He comes to temple and he's a pakka devotee. So we were all sitting in the ale of the ashram and he's saying, and looking at all the brahmacharis, he says, you know what? I had desire for sense gratification. So I got married. And that was a mistake I made in my life. But I'm a responsible grahastha. I'll take care of my wife. I'll take care of my child. And,
Oh, I have so many thoughts right now, but please go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe you should share your
No. Another episode, but please go ahead.
So, but I love my wife. I take responsibility. I'm going to do, but I made a mistake of getting married. That's a mistake I made. And everybody's like, and he's like, and you are all brahmacharis, And I knew that something is going wrong here. So I said, okay, Prabhu, wait. What if I tell you now that I've been in the ashram for 20 years, but I guess I made a mistake. But I'm responsible and I'm happy. I'll serve nicely. And as soon as I said it, I saw his face. No, you can't say that.
You can't say that you made a mistake.
Right.
I said, why? He said, no, what will happen to us? You can't say that. I said, oh, so you are saying you can be authentic. You can be honest. So you are saying, I have no choice but to be a pure devotee or a hypocrite. You're saying, I can't be honest. So that was actually a very important meeting we had, discussion. So then I realized, okay, I have to be honest now. So then, of course, you can't go around telling the whole world about that's not the point I'm saying. I'm saying honest to yourself at least, because if you live in denial is the worst kind of lie, because that's the lie we tell ourselves. Right? So at least, but renounced order, I feel, is sustainable if we are honest about who we are. And
that authenticity discussion is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can either be pure devotee or be a hypocrite.
It's like there's no in between, right?
Wow.
Yeah. It feels like there's this expression, right, of being on, right? Just like, meaning like,
what is that?
Being on, like being turned on, like you're on.
Like you're on, you're in the spotlight. You have to be like
performing.
Right? You're performing.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, for some of us, we get some juice out of it, right? Like especially if you're a little extroverted or something, there's something, but to be on all the time is draining, it's exhausting. It causes a kind of almost like a disconnection from yourself, right? And it sounds like from what you're describing that, at least seen superficially, we can look at the renounced order as being like, oh, well, you should always be on. And it's like, that's not sustainable, right? You need your space, whether it's like in smaller sangha or in privacy, just to turn it off.
Yeah, you need to connect to yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Because this kind of life, especially now in social media age, you're always stimulated, always excited, always getting a dopamine kick. So what happens is it has a catabolic effect on your body. Your tissues break. It is activating your sympathetic nervous system. You're always fighting. You're struggling. That's just, you need to have your space where you are with Krishna, you are with yourself, your own, you connect your feelings, your needs, your aspirations.
How do you feel devotees from traveling so much? You talk with so many different devotees. How do you feel devotees can be more authentic, be more honest, be more not like Venkata said, be pressured to be on all the time?
I guess we all need to find our own way of connecting to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, some do it through Mangalarti. I have a very close friend of mine who's like Mangalarti addict. And that
just loves it.
He just, even if he's come to the temple at 2 in the night or something, he's there for Mangalarti.
Wow.
So some I know who love Chaitanya Charitamrita, and basically we need a place, we need something which gives us shelter, where we don't struggle. Where we don't, there are three houses where you could live in your inner world. Okay, like for example, we could be sitting here, and I could be thinking of, what's Namras going to feed me for dinner tonight? So I could be in the world of sense gratification, even though externally I'm here. Or in my inner world, I could be in the world of struggle. I could be planning my tomorrow's program, agenda, I have to get these things done, I have to buy grocery. So we could be in the world of sense gratification or struggle in our inner world. But we could also be in the world of shelter, where we are not struggling, we just let go. Basically, shelter house is a house where there is a sense of belonging. I'm safe. I have reached here. This is not a means for something else. This is it. Your journey has ended. You are here. So for me, that is what I call BJP. BJP is a politically...
That took a turn.
That is breathing, journaling and prayer. So I do this. I spend every day quality time. Every day I spend a lot of time actually doing these three. And this is what gives me that space to be authentic. It helps me connect to my own feelings, my needs, my insecurities. Helps me realign myself to my vision, my aspirations. And work on things that I can change and make peace with what I can't change. And it helps me go forward with grace and dignity, I would say. It helps me sober down, actually. So BJP is what I do. Breathing, journaling and praying. But I know devotees who don't do any journaling, who don't do any breathing. And that's fine. I know one devotee who loves deities. His whole day doing deity worship or looking at deities or, So I guess we need to find our shelter. And once we have that shelter, then I guess you can be authentic. You can be in that space where you're vulnerable, authentic.
You have to cultivate that kind of internal life to do those things, right?
Yeah.
Like journaling, I'd love to talk about that, but that's something that I would love to do, but I feel like I'm so external. Like my life is just so crazy in the external way that to sit and do something more internal would take so much effort.
It's a little intimidating also, right? Especially with something like journaling to kind of face, just face a blank page.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
If you don't have that practice, right? And sometimes we build it up in our minds that it's like, oh yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And then I sit down to journal and it's like, I don't know how to do this. It's,
Can we break those three things down? Like just specifically, I would love to hear about
to share
that.
Because that's what I do every day.
Breathing, journaling, and prayer.
Praying. Yeah.
With breathing.
Breathing, So it's basically, just like you go to the washroom a few times a day. So for me, breathing breaks is it's like removes all the clutter. So I take out my smartphone, I put an alarm, or sometimes I just put the stopwatch. I just start the time. Just breathe. Nothing, there's nothing
We're not talking about a special
I'm not talking
technique
about
or something.
Ramdev Baba's,
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about simple breathing.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you've done this. What happens when you inhale? Does your stomach go in or go out?
In.
Out.
Out. See? I said in. You said in and you said out. So that's what I'm saying. We don't even know how to breathe.
No, we can't even agree on how to breathe.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
We're the best co-hosts.
So
Yeah, really.
breathing is the basic thing. When you inhale, your stomach
Oh,
goes out.
okay.
But our life is so busy.
Yeah.
We've forgotten how to breathe.
So you're saying consciously breathing.
Consciously breathe. Just listen to the breath, the sound of your breath. Relax, slow down. The brain is rushing at. I don't have the Google with me now, but I'm sure Google Baba will tell you. Earth is moving at a fast speed in its own axis. I think some thousands and thousands of miles per hour.
Yeah.
And then the Earth is also moving around the sun at some thousands of speeds per hour.
Yeah.
And we are on this planet Earth, which is moving at such a rapid speed, and Earth is moving around the sun in such a fast speed. And then we are on this planet Earth moving in our cars and planes at a maddening speed. And on top of that, we have our mind, which is faster than all of them. Where are we going? Speed thrills, but it kills. And most of the healthy things in life, they don't happen. They happen organically. I mean, how do the seasons change? How do you get day? How do you get sunlight? Is it that at night you want light? What do? You switch on and you get light. But does nature give you light like this?
Gradual.
That's gradual. First there is the dawn, and then
Right.
so there is grace, there is rhythm, there is harmony in nature. How do you become old? Is it that one day you get up from the bed and, oh, I've become an old man? No.
Yes, that's literally what happened to me on my 40th birthday. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, so we basically things happen organically in nature. So what happens is when we breathe, we slow down. It's like, as I said, going to the washroom, it clears up a lot of clutter. It helps you to come back and connect to yourself. It helps you be more authentic.
How long do you do that smartphone, the timer for?
Sometimes I don't keep the phone with me necessarily, but basically I take at least on an average 7 to 10 breathing breaks a day.
Wow.
That's at least 2.5, 3 minutes each break. So that's around, I spend on an average 30 minutes a day just taking breathing breaks.
My God.
You know what? I don't want my authorities to know this. They'll think he's not doing any seva. Hey, let us engage him.
I mean, your clarity of what you're saying and how you're like, I haven't sit down and spoken to you before, but just hearing you, I can see that there's definitely some benefit in what you're doing.
Of course.
Like I have a very like cluttered brain, and to get my thoughts in order and things is so difficult sometimes.
Try this, just try sometime, just take a break. And in that 2 minutes, you may even get a short nap. That's powerful. After the end of those 2-3 minutes, you put an alarm for 3 minutes and then you just relax.
Wow.
You don't struggle, even if your mind wanders, it's okay. You just don't keep, you just relax.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens at the end of those 3 minutes. You are like,
wow.
As they say, you shoot an arrow, you take it back.
Yeah.
It helps you to, it's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Breathing.
How did you discover this? Did you like stumble into it, or was it something someone advised to you?
A lot of factors. I'm sure I must have read it somewhere. I don't know, but I guess a lot of factors are. I also stumbled upon it. I remember feeling very overwhelmed sometime, and I think mixture of factors. I can't really attribute.
Yeah, I know that certain emotions make you unconsciously hold your breath.
Yeah.
Like if you're upset or angry or something, like I know my wife, I have to sometimes tell her like, take a breath. Like you're like talking so much and you like forget to breathe. And do you have anything more about breathing?
Just that, I mean, it's one of those things that to me, as you're explaining it, it like makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. And it doesn't even sound like that much of an imposition, right? If you think about how much time you have in a day, it's like,
we spend so much time on WhatsApp.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's one of those things that I just, I appreciate so much. And then I still know like it's such a difficult shift for me to get into that. It's kind of like, I mean, this maybe sounds very like basic, but I know cognitively that I should be drinking water throughout the day. And I don't drink water. Like I need to be reminded or forced or, like in your example, like my wife needs to actually bring me a cup of water and say, did you even drink any water today? Right. So I don't know how to get over that sort of how to make that shift where it's not just in theory, I know this is good for me, but it's like, okay, Baba, let's put it into practice. Let's like actually do it.
So you're asking me how to do it?
Yes. I'm asking you basically to guide my life for me. Would you be my life coach actually? Which we can also talk about because that's a whole thing, right?
I'm struggling with my own mind and senses. I need to slow down. See, what happens is I'm saying you don't need to do this. That's what I said in the beginning. Everybody has their own way of finding shelter. You know? So this may not be for you. It's okay. You may be very productive, effective, happy, blissful. So why do you want to introduce something which you may not need at all? But I learned it the hard way. In the sense, I suffered. I was overwhelmed. Too many things happening, and then this came as a blessing. And then what happens is also when breathing nowadays is mixed with prayers. It's like when I take these breathing breaks, I'm like offering a prayer. Krishna, I'm just coming from a walk now. I offer this walking for you. I don't know how this walking is going to please you, but I guess this is what I can offer you, Krishna. I love you. Okay. And then back. See, having said this, I must also confess I'm struggling with my senses and mind and all of those anarthas. I'm nowhere there. But it helps me connect to Krishna.
I love that. I love that so much.
Because we need to offer everything to Krishna ultimately.
I was also thinking, I mean, I don't know if this is intentional, but I was also thinking breathing is so primal to us, and it's, of all the gifts that Krishna gives us, it's probably the most fundamental gift, right? He's literally giving us each breath that we're taking. We talk about our breathing, but it's really just like pure grace in a sense. So Wow.
That's a good connection.
Totally
Beautiful.
struck by this connection where if I'm getting this breath as a gift, then I can use this breath also as a way of connecting or even just expressing that gratitude.
Yeah.
Prayer is something that's, interesting for me, because I think that sometimes I think, why should I pray if Krishna already knows everything in my heart? So why express that? If he knows everything, it's Paramatma. So before I even make a prayer, he knows that already. So why make that prayer? So then that blocks me from actually, which I know prayer is one of the 9 processes, and it's to express, like the Prahlad Maharaj and so many in the Bhagavatam's, like chapters of people.
I feel like the Bhagavatam's like half of it.
Half it's like prayer, right? So what would you say to someone who says, as like a challenge, that Krishna already knows my prayers?
Yeah, Krishna knows everything, but then, just like a parent would be happy to see a child approach the parent. So I think when we come to Krishna with whatever we want to offer, we want to express, Krishna becomes very happy because we are taking a step closer to Krishna. And I'll tell you, I've also seen sometimes in my life that sometimes some of my problems have not gone away, even though I came in front of Krishna and I prayed. So I'm realizing now that prayers may not necessarily guarantee that your problems are solved, but prayers guarantee that you come closer to Krishna. And that solves a much bigger problem, a much deeper problem. So, so I guess, so that's one thing. Even though Krishna knows everything, but Krishna is waiting for us to turn to him. He is like that bird on the branch of the tree. See what's happening, just see like this. You are here, okay? You're sitting like this. On your right side is Krishna. He's waiting for you to turn to him. And he's waiting for you to tell him, I love you. And on your left side is a 10-foot tall, huge giant with horns and, with huge ferocious teeth. And he's constantly ranting. And he is the mind, or a mix of mind, intelligence, and ego. So we are surrounded by 2 guys. And this mind is constantly shouting, and we are only looking at him. And he is not you. You are not obliged to listen to him, obey him, follow him. But we just, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You do everything the mind is saying. So whole bhakti process is basically about turning our neck from looking at the mind of Krishna. And Krishna's voice is soft. See, the mind's voice is loud, fast, and attached. And Krishna's voice is soft, slow, and detached. So when you actually turn to Krishna and pray, you're like, wow, Krishna, this guy is troubling me. So yeah, Krishna knows everything, but can we turn to Krishna? Krishna.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's so nice.
I know we're going to get to journaling as well, but on this point of the voice of Krishna and the voice of the mind, it sounds like then, with some practice, we can start to actually distinguish between those voices, right? In other words, like I hear so many voices. I know that makes me sound like a mental patient right now, but throughout the day, right? If I try to check in, there's some voice within, but it's like, is that voice really Paramatma speaking to me or giving me a glimpse, or is it my mind? Is it my ego? And so, how do you start to distinguish between those voices? I mean, you said like one is like loud and one is soft, and
Basically, it has got more to do with culture. It's not a switch on, switch off technique. See, if you have a culture of hearing scriptures connected to a wisdom higher than our own mind and intelligence, because our intelligence is also corrupted. Because it's many times for us, intelligence is simply a slave of the mind. Often, intelligence is simply it's not spiritualized.
It's just like a sophisticated version of carrying out whatever the mind wants to do anyway.
Yeah.
So if you have access to higher wisdom, like if you have a culture of hearing from sadhus, scriptures, so that culture is there. And we also have a good association, good relationships, good friendships. And then we have these practices which helps us to connect to ourselves. Then I can assure that, we could hear Krishna's voice, in the sense, we'll struggle, but we will know what is right. The Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Upanishads speak about the sheaths. So there is this wisdom sheath within all of us, and we can connect to the Lord within ourselves. Although we are fallen and we're not pure devotees, but we need that guidance. We need that inner guidance. So if you have a culture of hearing scriptures and wisdom, otherwise, hearing your own voice can be dangerous. Like Hitler, I was shocked. Hitler and his right-hand man, who was he? The one who actually... he was the one who actually did the whole Holocaust, was his brain.
Yeah. I know you're talking about. Himmler. Yeah.
Himmler was reading the Gita. I mean, he claimed, I don't know if he read the Gita, but he made a statement that Hitler is Krishna, I'm Arjuna. And we're not killing these Jews, we're not the body anyways. So what I'm saying is, if you don't have sadhus, you don't have connection to, the higher intelligence, then your intelligence can run riot. You can justify anything. So to hearing the voice can be a dangerous affair. So what I'm saying is, if you have a culture of individual practices, culture of association of good devotees, and also hearing scriptures, then I guess that's safe to say that we could hear the voice of Krishna.
Yeah. And where does now journaling, the third thing, I want to get into that a lot more. Did you write a book about journaling also?
No, I've included the journaling as a very important part of my next book called The Heart Space. So, yeah. Okay.
Tell us, first your personal, how do you do that? And then more generally.
Oh, this podcast will go on the whole night then. Journaling is it's my passion. I love journaling. I write
It's such a challenge for me. So I really want to know how you do it.
Where do I begin?
Where did you start?
Yeah, how did you start? Maybe?
Well, I used to write journals earlier also, but then after, the ISKCON ashram life was so busy, and then I was totally disconnected. But in 2007 or 8, I remember I went through a phase where I was very lonely, and I was like overwhelmed and so many things to do, so many people to please. And I was just completely disconnected from myself. So then, what happens is you go back to the things that nourished you before. So then I got the journal, and then I realized, I started journaling. I started writing my thoughts, what is going on in my heart. I realized my mind is slowing down. And then I realized, I'm lonely not because I have no people around me. In fact, I was living with 150 people.
Right.
So then I realized, loneliness is not about not having people around you. It's about our inability to communicate what's really important for ourselves. And I saw some people who were very alone, but they were not lonely. And some people could be living in a crowd, but still be lonely. So journaling was what made me, wow, I'm no longer lonely. I have a companion. And then, amazing thing was, during the COVID, for 8 months, I stayed with my mom. I was all alone without association of devotees.
Really?
I was hankering to be with devotees, of course, but there's too many. It's a long story. My mom was sick and all of that. Wow. And I was not lonely. I had my journal. Of course, I was hankering to be back with devotees. But so journaling, this is one thing I could say. Journaling helps to create a gap between what happens to you and your response to it. It creates that space between the stimulus and your response.
Yeah. And that space is what? Reflection?
Yeah, reflection, just putting out your heart on paper, putting out your mind on paper. There are many types of journaling which I discovered over the last 18 years. And for example, today morning I didn't write, but yesterday I wrote for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Today I wrote for just 5 minutes. So sometimes I can write for hours, I just keep putting my heart into paper, and then prayers, everything comes. So yeah. That's I'm randomly saying. I could have more structured. I have a more structured presentation on journaling also, but now because you asked me, my immediate thoughts, this is what comes to my mind about journaling.
What's the goal of it in one sense? Because when I was younger, I journaled, and looking back on that, it was a lot of just explaining what my kind of situation or incidents or things that happened. It wasn't as much like mind things, Mm-hmm. Is that still beneficial when it's not so much kind of internal thoughts, but it's
today
more,
I did this, then this happened, that happened.
Yeah, I guess that's diary, keeping a diary of what happened, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's good for keeping record of what happened, and yeah. But journaling is a little different than that. It's not like simply keeping a record of what's happening in the external world. It's like there are two worlds, right? The world outside of you, like the Harry Potter world of what the wizards and what the muggles.
Yeah.
Muggles. So
Carmies.
why I'm speaking about.
Wait, how do you know what that is?
I'll tell you. I will tell you about this.
You're
I was in
Harry Potter has been snuck into the ashram.
I was at King's Cross station. We were going to Paris.
Yeah.
And devotees said, Prabhu, you're here. You have not visited the holy dham of platform 9 3/4. And they baptized me into the whole thing. And they. So then I went there and I hugged that whatever. the pillar.
The pillar.
Okay, so
pillar
there are two worlds.
Actually, didn't come out of that pillar. Right? Who came out of that pillar? I get all my stories mixed
So
up.
there are two worlds, okay? So the world outside of us and the world inside of us. And there are different laws. So you've been taught manners since you were a child. You've been taught, okay. In India, we are taught when you greet your elders, you say, Namaste, uncle.
Yeah.
Don't dig your nose with your finger. Bad boy. Say please, say thank you. We've been taught a lot of stuff about how to deal with others in this world. Social etiquette we've been taught. But how many of us have been, honestly, we can admit that we've been taught about the mind-ego-intelligence nexus, how the ego is the mafia, how the mind accepts and rejects, how the intelligence executes the plan. We have not been taught all of this. We have not been taught about the world inside. See, the wizards' world, they have their own Olympics, they have their own police force, they have their own banks, they have their own world. There's a whole world inside of us. So journaling helps us enter that world. And then you realize you're not simply your mind. See, just now I gave an example of how the mind is here, Krishna is here. Okay, where did I get this from? Journaling helped me understand that I'm not my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, just a simple example. If you do this, you will fall in love with journaling. Just take a paper and pen and just write. Okay, just like this video camera is observing you, right? Now, if you have to observe this room, you will not judge, you will just observe. Just switch on the video camera of your inner world. Take a paper and pen. This is what I do many times. Now, my mind is saying, get up and go to the washroom. But I don't get up and go to the washroom. I just note down whatever the mind is saying. Just like a video camera is observing, I'm observing what my mind is saying. So I write. Now my mind is saying, what about your tomorrow's flight to Dubai? Have you got your boarding pass? Now my mind, and as you keep just writing for 3 minutes, just write down what the mind is saying. And at one point of time, you will realize that as you're completing the sentence, your mind has gone to 10 other topics. And it's like amazing. By the end of that exercise, 10-minute exercise, I'm like, wow, this is, and then I read it. It's like, oh, excuse me. It's like as if my mind is sitting next to me. Isn't it amazing? I mean, we say we are not the mind, but to realize you're not the mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Our identity has got merged with the mind.
You're actually disentangling it by writing
disentangling.
all this.
Just by writing without judgment.
See, I think that without judgment piece is really important, right?
Yeah. I just complete this thought.
Yeah, please.
When what I do is, I also give a name to the mind. Sometimes I give a very sweet feminine name like Chanchal. So somebody says, okay, we are a brahmachari, you don't have a spouse. I have a companion.
Yeah, right. Your mind.
Chanchal is my companion's name.
Yeah.
So now Chanchal is saying, do this. Or now Chanchal is worried and anxious about Namras's podcast. What is he going to ask me? And now Chanchal is saying so many things.
Yeah.
And sometimes I also give a different name to my mind. When I know that the mind is very nasty and very stubborn, I give the name Gollum from J.R. Tolkien's
Oh,
Lord
yeah,
of the
right.
Rings.
Gollum,
I remember still, as a teenager reading both Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. So for me, Gollum represents an archetypal mind. It's like he's serving his master, but he's also plotting to kill him.
Yeah.
So mind is a friend, is also an enemy. So sometimes I give the name Chanchal, sometimes I give Gollum. It's all spontaneous. So now Gollum is demanding that I write this email to this devotee for whatever, an angry email, and just putting it down without judgment. Then at the end of it, you are like, wow. So you are at the level of the self then. And then the prayers actually come. Because it's you praying to Krishna. It's, so many times when we criticize our mind, like, Prabhu, my mind is troubling me, that's also the mind. It's also the mind actually. Many times it's not from the platform of the real self. Often our insecurities. Mind knows how to come through the back door. So, but it's important for us to separate ourselves from our mind. You know, Srila Prabhupada, I think he told Tamal Krishna Maharaj once, I heard Mahatma Prabhu say this, first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how journaling helps us to disentangle ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially if you do it in a non-judgmental way.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. I have to blow my nose. Sorry. Should we wait? Let's wait.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna wait. I will force you to cut this out.
Cut off what? This one.
He doesn't like cutting things. He likes leaving, but I'm always telling him like
Editing.
Also, my neck is like killing me.
Oh, Krishna. You need...
You want to switch spots or something?
No. We'll keep it same spot. I just want to give myself a little break here.
Great. Okay. Yeah, continue.
You need to continue on your personal device.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta turn this thing off. All right, let me take a second and get back to where we were.
We're talking about non-judgmental.
That's right. So how do you free yourself from that tendency that I think we all have to just jump into judgment, right? Because I know for myself, I can try to observe something, but even subtly that inclination to judge it comes in.
You mean judging self?
Judging self, judging others, just going straight into the place of judgment rather than actual just observation, which is what I hear you talking about.
Well, I'm not able to do that. So I can't really comment on it, all that. But I do it sometimes when I journal or sometimes when I'm present in a conversation. But I'm struggling also. So I'm not the best person to speak on it. But I guess the more we practice observation, more we practice. Like, you know, when I'm in a taxi, for example, I'm driving in Mumbai. I consciously take out my smartphone. I put an alarm for 5 minutes and I say, I'm now going to observe without judgment. I make this affirmation. And then I look out of the taxi and I see, okay, now children are returning home from school. Then I see children walking. Now somebody's playing cricket. And then I hear my mind saying, oh, that car is going very fast. That's a judgment. You know, like I can see my mind racing. So, but because I've consciously made an affirmation that I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes observing, not judging. So I keep coming back to that. It's like a practice. I do that sometimes, not always. Yeah. But I've seen at the end of it, I'm more peaceful. Because judgment and I guess we need also judgment. I mean, we survive in this world to navigate through. We need to have a sense of discrimination. But it's possible to observe more and judge less by practice.
Yeah.
It's possible. What are some other, like you said, for the past 18 years, you've also heard of other kinds of ways of journaling. What are some other, like you mentioned that one, just observe on a piece of paper. What are some other kind of journalings there are?
Okay, I could share one. This is called wisdom writing. Okay, wisdom writing is, you heard a Bhagavatam class, say for example, or you heard some nice podcast or something. You heard something on the internet or you heard some devotee class or you read scriptures. And then you sit down and you just write. You begin by putting on paper what you heard or what you read. And then let the thoughts flow. And then at the end of that, say 20-minute exercise, you'll be amazed by what you've written. Because then it's like the digested wisdom. It's somebody else's wisdom. You've taken it, you heard it, and now you're writing it. Basically, when you're writing it, you're accessing a space beyond your own mind. You're accessing some deeper space within yourself. And that is taking the wisdom that you've heard. And then what comes on paper is yours. See, what you read or what you hear becomes yours when you write it.
Right.
You haven't written it, it's somebody else's. Like I saw a very nice, some time ago, I heard I don't remember now. I saw Jai Shetty's some nice video and I was like, wow. And then I started writing it. At the end of 4 pages that I wrote, I was like, wow, this is me.
Yeah.
So that's how we add to the wisdom on this planet. That's how we expand knowledge. That's how we grow, we evolve, right?
Like it's
so
kind
that's
of
one
like,
kind of writing.
Right. Like Vigyan in some ways, right?
Exactly.
It realized.
Yeah, it helps you grow in a real. That's one I call it wisdom writing. Another is very interesting. It's called gratitude journal. So I begin my day with this generally. What are the 5 things I'm really grateful for the last 24 hours? I call it the fresh gratitude. Gratitude can also be very boring sometimes. Like I remember beginning, I thank my mother and father, I thank my grandparents, I thank my Guru Maharaj.
The big picture,
So then now I do it differently now. I keep gratitude not abstract or vague. I keep it very specific, and I keep it fresh. Just like you like fresh food, right? You don't want to eat stale food. Fresh food is exciting. So fresh gratitude is like, what is good happening around?
Yeah.
So then I saw that, I inadvertently, I saw myself catching good things in life in the daytime because I need to report it in my gratitude journal the next day.
Right.
So I'm looking out for good things. I'm catching people doing right. That's a big thing,
I mean, those things were there all the time. But now you're actually tuning into them.
I'm observing it now. And I'm telling you, I've also gone through negativity, in the sense hearing negativity and all of that. And now because of gratitude journal, I see it's like there's a freshness in life. Like, wow. I feel every day is fresh, exciting, because there is something to thank Krishna for. It could be something like, you had some nice prasadam, or it could be something ordinary.
Yeah.
But fresh gratitude is extremely powerful. It's like, it's better to remember Krishna for the ordinary thing than to forget Krishna in pursuit of the extraordinary, So we have extraordinary goals of back to Godhead, which is needed. But there are so many beautiful things happening right around us.
Yeah, the everyday miracles.
Everyday miracles, and just writing them down. And then there's a very important thing there. You write fresh gratitude, specific gratitude, and fresh, but answer why. Like, for example, I'm very grateful to you, Krishna, for this podcast with Namras. This is what's going to be in my tomorrow's journal, okay?
Well, the podcast hasn't ended yet, so let's see if it makes the list.
I'm hoping it will be, it will be like this till the end. So I'll say, thank you, Krishna. That is now a fresh gratitude for the podcast and specific for this podcast. Now the why. Why am I grateful for it? Yes. Because I was myself. I felt I could share what's really important for me.
Yeah.
That's like answering why in that gratitude. See, there are 4 elements of gratitude journal. First is fresh. Second is specific. A specific incident. Yes. Third is why it's important for me. Why is it important? Because it helped me be myself and I could share what's really important for me. And then the 4th is very interesting. I add the Krishna element. Okay, the 4th element is, okay, now what did Krishna do here? Krishna is always doing one of the 3 things to us. He's either advising us. I told you, if on the right side, he's whispering something to us.
Yeah.
Or he's arranging things for us. Or he's sometimes allowing us to do some things like we want to do, and he's like, okay, you do it. Like, I'm not supposed to eat French fries, but when I was tempted and I ate it and I got no pain and I got no problem. So Krishna allowed me, So Krishna is allowing us, he's advising us, he's arranging things for us. So I end the journal like this tomorrow. Thank you, Krishna, for this amazing podcast with Namras, because it helped me speak and share what is really important for me. And I could see that you arranged this for me. Namras contacted I think the devotee who coordinates my program.
Yeah.
So you arranged this, Krishna, through Namras. Thank you. So what is happening here is, so this way we learn to see Krishna hand in our lives.
Yes.
Like,
it
for
makes
example,
it personal.
It's very personal. Like, I lost my bead bag. I just giving an example. It's just, I put the bead bag in the train. I was talking to somebody, very animated discussion. Then I got up and I was getting down, and then suddenly I remembered my bead bag is in the seat. I came running back. I picked up my bead bag. So in the night, the next day morning, my journal is something like this. Thank you, Krishna. I found my bead bag just in the right time. And that's very important for me. Why? Because I've been chanting on it for 25 years. And you advised me, you told me. It's like, you are walking with your wife and you forget something and your wife tells you, hey, something, and then you suddenly remember. So Krishna's always there in the heart. He's telling us. So how did I suddenly remember that my bead bag was there? Krishna. So basically it helps us to see Krishna's hand in our life.
Right.
So these are the 4 things I do in a gratitude journal. So this is gratitude journal. Then what did I share? The now journal. What's happening now? Video camera.
Yeah.
So these are the 2 kinds of, there are many, wisdom journal is one.
Yeah, I mentioned that one.
There's some more.
The gratitude journal, that really resonates with me. I've done that at different times in my life. I'm feeling, just hearing you speak about it, I'm feeling inspired to take it up again.
Yeah, totally.
My wife, who is Nam's sister, for those who don't know, Krishangi, she is a big fan of gratitude journals as well. And I remember there was one particular time where she did a variation of a gratitude journal called How Krishna Showed Up Today.
Wow.
And I thought it was just so sweet, and she's not for those who know us, like I'm more of the writer in the family. She's not a writer in that sense, but I just thought it was so brilliant and it was so her, it was so authentic. And there were really short little entries, but she always found, it was amazing. It was like, there was never a day when she was, doing the stretch of journaling that she was doing. There was never a day where he didn't show up in some way.
Amazing. How Krishna showed up today. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There's one I want to just, share. Just it's always like, it's like my favorite story from that journal that she kept. But there was an Ekadashi, and she's a teacher, and she was working, the school she was working in at the time, I forget which one it was, but there was an Ekadashi, and she forgot to pack something, and she was like really hungry in the middle of the day. And a coworker just came up to her and said, like, I know this is really random, but I have this sweet potato. Do you want this sweet potato?
Oh, I think I remember that.
It was kind of, I don't remember the details, but it was almost like the coworker was kind of like confused herself. She was like, I don't know why I'm giving this to you, but like, I know it's a very random thing. And Krishna, like, you think of all these stories where Krishna delivers the prasad. It was so sweet, and it was just, that was her entry for that day. Wow. It was just like, thank you, Krishna, for bringing me that sweet potato, and it's like, it could be that small, but like so many years later, like that's what sticks in my mind. That's what gives me faith.
Actually, if you see, this Mahaprakash Leela in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Gangadas Pandit, Mahaprabhu says, Gangadas, do you remember that night when the Muslims attacked your village and you were scared for your family and you wanted to run away, but there was no boat available and you were about to kill yourself and suddenly a boatman appeared. You know who it was? I came as a boatman.
Wow.
Yeah.
You remember that? And then Mahaprabhu looks at Srivas Thakur. Remember, you were very sad because you were thrown out of the Bhagavatam class of Devanand Pandit, and you were very sad and you started reading Bhagavatam and you suddenly felt joy in your heart because I entered your heart. Wow. Advaita Acharya, remember, you couldn't understand the Bhagavad Gita verse and you took a vow that you will fast till you figure out that verse, and then you couldn't understand it, but I made you understand it. And then Das, remember that Das, you had fever and you were about to die, and then you were delirious, and suddenly a physician appeared from nowhere. Haridas Thakur, do you remember, the lashes, and then Mahaprabhu shows his back.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, we are not like Mahaprabhu's confidential associates, but Lord is doing something like that for us also. Like, have you ever been in a car driving where you felt, wow, we just had a close shave, or it could have been a fatal accident?
Oh yeah, totally.
So who do you think saved you? It was Mahaprabhu. Just like he saved Devanand Pandit, he was there that day for you as you're driving your car, and you averted a major accident. I remember once, I'll tell you, coming back to the breathing and journaling part, when I was not doing journaling, during those days, when I was not breathing and all of that, I remember my car was going somewhere, and a bus came from front, and we just had a close shave, just 1 minute, just 1 second actually. We just had a close shave. We averted a major accident and I would have died. And I remember saying, oh, thank you, Krishna. And then 2 seconds later, I was busy with something else. I was reading something. I think I picked up my old phone, Nokia phone, something. I don't know. I was busy. I just couldn't pause. And, gratitude actually means to also receive. Receive that, it requires a lot of grace to receive. We are very good in giving. Gratitude is all about receiving also. Wow. So I'm so happy you shared this. It's amazing how Krishna is actually showed up, He said that prasadam.
I like what you said, how Mahaprabhu showed up for all those devotees. Yeah. He told them how he did.
And he's doing that for us also.
Like, let me write your gratitude journals for each of you. Like, right. You can write this and you can write that. This is how I showed up for you. Yeah. This is so amazing. And like, I just feel in this room, I hope that it's going to be transmitted, over the airwaves or whatever, but like just feeling, I can palpably feel inspiration in this
totally
room. And it's like,
I feel Prabhu's energy totally on,
right? Like
showering me with inspiration.
Like I want to breathe, I want to journal, I want to pray.
Prabhu, why is it that we only feel these things? I mean, bhakti gives rise to bhakti, and we associate with those devotees who inspire us and things, but how do we do this when, for example, you're not here or another sadhu is not there, just kind of all these things you're talking about, how to push I guess that was your question.
Like the day-to-day,
on the day-to-day, grahastha life is hard, it's
I have a friend who says it's all about how do you put this into practice on a random Tuesday afternoon at 3:45 p.m. or something, right? when it's just like you in the middle of the most mundane day, you know, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, there's many things coming to my head.
Yes.
Now. One thing is, for grahasthas, because I've traveled a lot and I've seen a lot of grahasthas, and my best friends are also many grahasthas. I think for grahasthas, it begins with small things, like determination comes in small packages. You don't have to do big things because your life is, too many challenges and you're fighting too many battles on so many fronts. I think in the first canto purport, I think Prabhupada writes, managing a family is more difficult than managing an empire.
Wow.
Yeah,
Something like that, something to this effect. So I really understand the challenges you're facing. So I personally feel it comes with something small. Like you could say something like, okay, just going to take one breathing break. We can begin with something like that. For maybe you can index what you want and then track it. Connect it to some existing habit you already have. I'm sure we all have right now. I'm sure you have at least 30, 40 habits already, right? You wake up every day, you take a bath, you take prasadam. So you connect something to an existing habit. Like for example, let's say you say, I'm going to do breathing now. I'm going to connect it to my existing habit of eating. So every day I eat at this time. So before eating, I'm going to spend 2 minutes breathing. And then track it. At the end of the day, and keep it very simple. The two principles are simplicity and consistency. Keep it very simple so that, if you have a big plan, then you get overwhelmed. And then consistent, because it's simple, you can do it every day. Like I'll tell you a simple example, my own example. I really wanted to write books at one time. And, I had this, like grahasthas have real problems. Brahmacharis have imaginary problems. So I had this, I've got so many things. So I couldn't write. I wanted to write a book. So I took a big plan. Okay, I'm going to write 500 words every day. That would take me 45 minutes. So I remember days when I had 15 minutes free time, but I didn't write because, I wouldn't be able to complete my 500 words.
So all or nothing kind of thing.
All or nothing. 500 words every day. But then I decided I'll write one sentence a day. And one sentence is something which I can write even if the roof is falling on my head. I can just write one sentence. But then what happened? It broke the jinx. It broke that, that third law of Newton. It is in motion. It remains in motion. If it's static, it remains in static position unless an external force is acted upon it. So I remember when I took this vow of this habit, okay, small, just one sentence a day. And then you won't believe it. That year I wrote one book, completed one book, and another book, almost half of it I wrote. Because that was the minimum I had to write. And I remember once I had a back pain and I thought, I can't do anything today, but I just have to write one sentence. I opened my computer, I started writing, and I wrote for 2 hours.
Wow.
So what happened is the mind, we need to trick the mind by keeping something simple, because you're overwhelmed. So keep something simple, keep it consistent, track it, index it in the night just before going to sleep. Okay, I did it today. I did 1 minute breathing. Something like that. So I think simplicity is what works for grahasthas, and consistently doing something small.
Yeah. At the risk of bringing our mood down, can I play devil's advocate, and can I, there are probably more than a few devotees who would hear what you're describing and say, well, that's all fine and good, but none of this sounds to be what Prabhupada taught. None of this sounds like
I was thinking that same thing.
Right?
I was thinking that same thing.
You know what I mean? Like,
What did Prabhupada teach? You tell me.
chant 16 rounds, follow four regular principles.
So are we saying don't do that?
Why bring in all this like journaling stuff and
Journaling, okay.
it's very hard for me to play good devil's advocate, by the way, because I don't buy any of that. But
Wait. August 14, 1972, Srila Prabhupada lecture in Los Angeles. He says, write. He keeps saying write.
Really?
Write 2 lines, write 3 lines. Write. So I put it in front of me in my table, just to inspire me and answer challenges like this.
yeah,
So you know what? Prabhupada's Veda base is a gold mine. It's a kalpavruksha.
whatever you want to get.
So Srila Prabhupada encouraged us to write. And breathing, I don't know. I'll have to search in the Veda base. But I guess, Srila Prabhupada didn't tell us anything about WhatsApp, Facebook. So I guess as we are struggling, as we are navigating through this world, what's our goal ultimately? Yena kena prakarena manha Krishna niveshya. We want to fix our mind on Krishna.
Somehow or
And
other.
Srila Prabhupada said, utility is the principle. That's what he said. Utility.
We just talked about that.
We just talked about this.
So that's what we are doing, right? Journaling, breathing is just trying to come closer to
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah. I mean, that's very satisfying to me. I think that makes perfect sense. I guess more broadly though, there's obviously a kind of a more conservative outlook that says like, well, why do we need to do all these things that are not sort of directly,
Krishna conscious.
Krishna conscious or directly like sadhana? And I remember you making a statement in another context, but I think it's valuable here too, where I think you use a phrase something like, it's like sadhana beyond the bead bag, I think was the phrase.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if you can unpack that a little bit.
Oh, that was really nice. Yeah. Where did we?
I think maybe that was like over a WhatsApp exchange or
Oh,
something.
yeah, that was, yes, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like can you tell us like what you mean by that and sort of, just how do you answer this kind of challenge, or not even challenge, but this more, perhaps we can say, conservative way of looking at it, where it's like, no, sadhana is like these, specific things, and what you're describing is more sort of mundane mode of goodness kind of stuff.
Yeah. Great question.
See, if you want, we can always justify what we are doing, we can always give clever answers and do all of that. But at the end of the day, we need devotees to trust each other. I mean, if a devotee is sincerely practicing and is trying to come closer to Krishna, and if he's doing something unconventional, but he's not really breaking the regulative principles, or we need to trust those devotees. Because I have a very close friend, as I told you, Anandandavan Prabhu. I went on a yatra with him where every day we chanted 64 rounds and 5 hours class and whole day intense, And I humbly told him, Prabhu, I have a challenge, I need to write journals, I need to do different things. And he was very loving and understanding. So I could see that he's very pakka about what he wants to do and what Prabhupada said. But because he gave me that space and he didn't judge me for it, or he could have told me that, what is the journaling? Morning time is for chanting. And
Right.
Yeah.
So I felt relieved that he didn't judge me. But I know not all devotees would appreciate that. So to such devotees, I would say, please trust us. We are unconventional a little bit. And also, I'm open to feedback. If it's, say, ultimately, if you see Shastrically, nectar of devotion is our basis. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has told us, given us 64 items to practice devotional service. And one of them is Smaranam, remembering Krishna.
Yeah.
And journaling is a way to remember Krishna.
Yeah.
Breathing is a way, as I told you, it is now, for me, breathing is more like offering to Krishna. So when I breathe, at the end of it, I'm saying, Krishna, I offer this to you. Now I'm going for Nam Rasa's podcast, Krishna. Okay, Venkat Bhatt is coming now. Krishna, I'm leaving. Krishna, this is going to be an offering for you. I'm going to come back to you after the podcast. I'm going to say, I hope you are happy with me, Krishna. I love you. Isn't this one of the 64 items of devotional service? Absolutely. And I think the 11th item in the 64 items is equilibrium in loss and gain.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I'm asking you. So that's one of the 64 items of devotional service.
Yeah.
The devotee has to be in equilibrium in loss and gain. So how do you of course, Acharyas have explained that, sannyasis generally don't go for weddings and don't go for funerals because, they create extreme emotions, and our goal is to always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So these kind of emotions can make you forget Krishna. So one has to be in equilibrium in loss and gain.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. So now when you journal, when you breathe, when you do all of this, if you can somehow, in this fast, frenzied life, if you can somehow be in equilibrium, if you can slow down, you're practicing one of the 64 items of devotional service, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Wow.
It may not be conventionally authorized by some devotees. In fact, I've seen devotees glorify Prabhupada, and I've seen devotees glorify Prabhupada. Prabhupada smashed him and he said rascal and all of that. And I've seen other devotees say, oh, Prabhupada was so sensitive and so kind. So I've realized that when we hear Prabhupada's glories from devotees, it reveals to us about Prabhupada, and also it reveals to us as much about that devotee's personality also.
Right.
Right. What they want to see.
Exactly. What their nature, their personality. So
Yeah,
Prabhupada
what
is able to
resonates with them,
exactly,
what connects
Prabhupada
to them.
reciprocates with them like that.
Yeah.
So now just because, our predecessors in the movement, some of them have been very conventional and they've been talking about this, so then we may think this is the only way.
Yeah.
But I know some sannyasis, I don't want to take names here. I know a sannyasi who gets up at 2 in the morning and he writes and does all of things, and he takes a bath at 12 o'clock or something in the afternoon. And then he comes, he doesn't meet the world for like 7-8 hours after waking up in the morning.
Wow.
And so I guess we need to trust each other and help. And of course, if there is a serious deviation, we need to help.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful answer. I love that.
Yeah,
Trust.
it's a great answer. Yeah.
We need to trust devotees. I'll tell you, I've grown up in an ashram. I want to say something very honestly. I've grown up in an ashram where we have so many mature seniors. I mean, I've been trusted. I still feel guilty when I don't rush for Mangalarati. Like I get up early and I try to write 1 hour before Mangalarati. But sometimes I'm in that flow, I'm in that zone, as they say, and I can hear the conch shell blowing where I'm in the room, and my heart, I want to rush for Mangalarati. And I know this is what Prabhupada said. This is what has nourished me for so many years. But now I'm 50, and I'm not a new bhakta anymore. I need my space. So I'm writing, and I'm like, and I write a sentence: Krishna, please forgive me. I'm not there for Mangalarati, but I love you. I want to continue writing now. And then I'm feeling guilty, and then I go to my seniors and I tell them, Prabhu, please forgive me. I know we trust you. That one sentence is like, oh. And sometimes I wonder if I was in another ashram somewhere else, maybe I would have been thrown out. So I guess when leadership or when devotees are trusting us, I am really grateful to my spiritual master, His Holiness Pradhana Swami Maharaj. He's so amazing. Whenever I talk to him about any of these things, he says, I trust you, Prabhu. So I guess, I think all devotees, all human beings, I think one of the biggest needs is non-judgmental acceptance. We all want to be accepted for who we are. We don't want to be judged. And if our attempts are sincere and if other devotees don't judge us, then it will be a Vaikuntha.
Yeah.
It will be beautiful.
That's such a great answer. Seeing that it's like to your question in the very beginning, will someone conservative might see this as something, but like when you deal with devotees on a human level, like this is another human being, first of all, and sometimes even it doesn't even go there. It's that we just it's black and white. This is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
But when you see the humanness in others, and like you said, also be trusting of others.
When there's a relationship, then it's relational.
Relationship,
right?
yeah. Then it's I think it's really beautiful answer.
Also, I think some of us will make mistakes. Like maybe we'll have some practices which may lead us to flow to the material energy.
Right.
We may burn ourselves. But I sometimes feel, see, as long as we're not doing something really, really gross, okay? But we need to we may make mistakes, but I'm not a mistake, I'm learning, I'm growing. And sometimes that calling and that urge is strong. And if it is within the boundary, and then you explore these different aspects to connect to Krishna.
Yeah.
I think we should encourage devotees to connect with Krishna the way they find. I'll tell you, ultimately at the end of the day, why are we chanting? We want to basically love Krishna, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like in a typical Indian setting. A boy and girl are in love, okay? And they want to meet. So they say, okay, let's meet in the canteen. So they meet in the college canteen, and the girl says it's very noisy. But then they meet in the library. Oh, we can't talk, we can't express. Okay, maybe let's meet in the park. Oh, that's too polluted, too much of crowd there. Okay, maybe they're discovering different ways. But then there is a place where then they understand, oh, this is it. This is where we can really connect. So for some, chanting is like the canteen. For some, it's not important where you meet Krishna. What's important is you connect with Krishna.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That's so good.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
And I tell you honestly, I've made mistakes. I'm being honest. In my journey of discovering this BJP, I have made mistakes. But I can say I'm not a mistake.
Yeah.
I made a mistake, but I'm not a mistake. I was growing. I was connected to Krishna. Even though I made a mistake, I don't want to talk about it here, but yeah. So I put a paper in my room, in my table. It says, I am a grahastha by nature, but a brahmachari by choice. I am not pure, but I'm sincere. And third sentence, I make mistakes, but I'm not a criminal. When I see this, I feel, okay, you're in a good space.
God,
You don't have to go around telling the whole world, justifying everything, because that not everybody will trust you.
Yeah.
But I see that so that I can love myself and I can assure myself and I can move on.
Well, when we feel that trust, there's so much less need to justify. There's so much less need to go out and to be on the defensive, because it's like, oh, I'm being trusted, so I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the sincerity sentence in that paper that, and also reminds me of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that sincerity is invincible. Wow. Sincerity is invincible.
Bhakti Raksha Sridhar.
Yes. That like, okay, you know, everything can be happening to you. You can be going through so many things, but if you're sincere, that's like the thing that we have, and that's what we can move forward with.
Like nothing can
stop.
Nothing can that.
Yeah, it's just invincible.
Yeah. That's it. Wow.
He was really so profound. My gosh, so many things.
His way with words, right?
Yeah.
Sridhar Maharaj is.
Yeah, prayer and oh my goodness. What were we talking about when we came to that? What was your question?
Yeah, just the kind of response to someone who might go, this is not really sadhana, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
You were there, yeah.
which I mean, again, I think you've made, you've given that response and then some, as far as, what you said. I'm also just reminded of, like, I know for me, maybe this is just like overly simplistic. I sometimes can be very like simplistic in my way of thinking about this kind of stuff. But to me, at a certain point, it's just, if I can honestly ask myself, is XYZ, and I want to stress honestly, right? That's a trick, to really be honest with oneself. But if I can honestly ask myself, is XYZ bringing me a little bit closer to Krishna or taking me a little bit farther away, right? Like that question to me is like the guiding principle over and over again.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything you're describing, right? Whether it's taking those breaths and those moments to reconnect, or journaling, in all these different ways, or, prayer, of course, but all these things, it's like, of course, if I'm doing it with intention, it's going to bring me a little bit closer to Krishna. It's going to bring, right? Or it's going to awaken me to all the ways that Krishna is already so close to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prabhu, what keeps you going in Krishna consciousness for so many years, besides all these things that you've spoken about?
I love to hear classes.
Yeah.
Like the few things I do, which really I feel I'm still surviving or I'm doing well, is because of few, of course, it's Krishna's mercy. But I love to hear classes, like Chopati Bhagavatam classes I'm hearing, although I'm in America now.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And then what I do is, what really gives me a lot of happiness is I love to appreciate devotees behind their back. And then, when I'm with them, I can see this positive energy, somehow. Like if you're not around, and if I talk to him about how we are so wonderful, and then I can see that we share there's something good energy between us.
Wow.
And then hearing classes, like this Chopati Brahmachari gave a class, and then I heard the class and I just texted him, Prabhu, I like this. I wrote some 10 points which I liked. And then he was shocked. He said, wow, you heard my class, you're so busy there. And then that exchange of appreciation for each other and that love. And it didn't take me long to just summarize this class, what I liked. That's one thing I do. And then there's another journal I called, I didn't speak about it. It's called Blessing Journal. No? So it's kind of it's very nourishing. I'm telling you, it's so good. You write a name of any person. I'm sure we all know at least 50 people in this world, right? So you write a name, and next to the name you write, Krishna, please, and then write a prayer. Krishna, please, let him, like I have a devotee friend, Sundaranand Prabhu. So today I've just gone through the 3rd round of chemotherapy. So my blessing journal tomorrow would be like, I'll write 5 names and I'll write a prayer for them. Sundaranand Prabhu, Krishna, please, please help him tolerate the pain of this 4th round of chemotherapy, and please give him love, whatever. And I've seen this, this is so nourishing. I want to share one example of this. We were in New Mayapur with the Pandavasena retreat, and I saw one girl, and so chairman of the Pandavasena, Ram, is telling me, Prabhu, this girl, she's very new in KC, and she's coming for the retreat. I said, why? I mean, because I was supposed to speak on Ramayana. I was going to speak in detail about Dasharatha and Kaikeyi's conversation and all of that.
Oh, wow.
And if she's very new, for 10 days, she's going to get lost there, because we're going to have Mangalarati, we're going to have all of those things. Why did you get her, And she said, Prabhu, we were in the streets and we met her. And then yesterday, and then we told her we are Pandav Sena, and she was talking to us. She said, oh, you're Pandav Sena. She Googled it and she said, oh, you're going for some retreat tomorrow. Can I join? These things don't happen in India so much, but I was like, wow. And they said, okay. And then she's there at the station. And I'm like, wow. I said, but Prabhu, I'm really stressed. I can't filter down, I can't make my presentations to suit her. Because she's very new. If I don't worry, Prabhu, you just be yourself.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, now what do? I took shelter of my prayer journal. So every morning, out of the 5 names, I kept one name constant. I kept her name, Elizabeth. So I said, okay, Krishna, please let her not get bewildered. The second day, Krishna, please see that she finds joy in Krishna consciousness, something like that.
Wow.
And third, there are 100 boys and girls, And the third day, this 17-year-old girl walks up to me and she's like, big, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm like, wow. And where did that energy, exchange happen? And she's saying, Prabhu, I love Ramayana, Ram is so good. And what probability do you, I feel so happy. And then I felt, but are you not bewildered by the Mangalarati and all of that,
Yeah.
No, I love the way you, you guys dress a plant with a skirt.
That's your sweet spot right there. A plant with a skirt.
So good.
So and then
power of
and the last
blessings,
day I was
though.
leaving. I was leaving on the 7th day. She comes up to me. She's dressed in a sari, and I'm like, so much of positive energy, And then I remember. So I'm not taking any credit for it. I'm just saying that the prayer journal, the blessing journal, just writing a small quiet prayer for just one sentence for someone else, it's so nourishing to the heart.
Wow.
And then, of course, appreciation of devotees, hearing Bhagavatam classes. And of course, gratitude journal is what really, really helps me, because I'm not like Kunti Devi. I don't want any difficulties in my life. But when I thank Krishna every day, I've seen, honestly, some of the worst problems I've gone through in my last 25 years, when I look back, I feel I'm glad I went through that. And I feel this is because of, I'm grateful to Krishna in retrospect. And I think gratitude journal is what really is keeping me going on, because I realize that, I don't love Krishna, but gratitude journal helps me. Sometimes people say, oh, if I write gratitude journals, will I love Krishna? Will I develop love for Krishna? I say, no, I'm not sure when you will develop love for Krishna, but at least you will realize that Krishna loves you. And that's a big deal,
Yes.
That's a big deal. And if you realize Krishna loves you, you will also love Krishna.
It's just a matter of reciprocating.
So it's a matter of reciprocating.
Yeah.
I'll just give a simple example. Okay, if I do a favor to you, like let's say you come to America and I get your job, I get your house, and you're thanking me. Remember, gratitude is specific, not abstract. So you thank me, Prabhu, thank you for getting me a job. Thank you, Prabhu, for helping me get a visa. Thank you for this. And you thank me for 15 things. After thanking me for 15 things, what is the 16th thing that will spontaneously come from your mouth? Like, you're thanking me for this, you're thanking me for, Prabhu, you've done this for me, thank you. You've done this for me, Prabhu. Thank you so much. And then what? And what would you say?
I feel something.
No, if you got benefits from someone else, if somebody is a benefactor, somebody's done a lot of things for you, and you thank him for all of those things, and then what is it that you would want to ask him or do?
Oh, what can I do for you in return?
That wouldn't that spontaneously come from your mouth? Like, okay,
Yes.
Prabhu, how can I please you? So I saw once, I was writing my gratitude journal over a period of few days, thanking Krishna for all the different things. And I remember one day, as I was writing, and I've tried to put emotions in it. And then at one point of time, I inadvertently caught myself writing a sentence, Krishna, thank you so much, Krishna. What can I do for you? How can I please you, Krishna?
You didn't consciously plan to write
No,
that.
it just and when I saw that, I realized, wow, isn't this what the 6 Goswamis are praying? Isn't this what Madhavendra Puri is saying, that I want to get Chandan for Gopal? Of course, I'm not drawing any parallels. I'm sure you understand that. It's just that.
No, it's
just that that takes our bhakti to the next level. Of course, I'm nowhere there, but it's just that moment I felt, wow, bhakti is real.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can. If I'm constantly thanking Krishna, I will reach a stage when I'll tell Krishna, I want to do something for you.
You know what's attractive about what you're saying is that it makes you less self-centered.
Exactly.
Because I feel like, I'm definitely less self-centered as a parent and everything, but I would think that as a brahmachari, like I've met so many really self-centered renunciates. Like it's all about them because that's who they're with all the
their
time.
whole like
But
lifestyle.
what you're telling me is like really, it seems like you could just.
One of the challenges I often face when I do gratitude, I do a gratitude workshop, Magic of Gratitude, and just before the last round, most people they start thinking, oh, this is all about it's all about myself, Thank Krishna for I got nice prasadam yesterday. It's all about me.
Yeah.
No, actually, gratitude journal takes us to beyond ourselves. It helps us move from the I space to Krishna space.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I think they call it decentering, right? It's like,
I don't know.
yeah, there's this expression where, it's like just by the act of expressing the gratitude, it takes me from my experience, which is like me in the center, and it decenters me. So now it's like
Beautiful.
the giver of that is in the center, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I really like that. Wow. You've given us so many gifts today, I feel.
Really, you have.
So many
yeah.
amazing gifts. We're at an hour and 15. Maybe we can end with one last question. Maybe, do you have anything you wanted to?
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We did cover a lot of ground.
Is there anything that you feel in this moment kind of
Yeah.
inspired to speak out that hasn't come up already in our conversation?
No, I didn't plan anything for this. Just off the cuff. I'm just
Sure. That's the beauty of
Yeah,
this.
that's
Yeah.
the best.
But if I had to say something in the end, I would just say, yeah, Krishna loves us all, and we need to trust Krishna. We need to trust our relationship with Krishna, and we need to appreciate each other
And trust each other.
and trust each other, and yeah, we are all on a journey. We need each other actually,
Yeah.
and we need to pray for each other. So.
Wow.
And being small really helps. Being vulnerable helps. Because generally when we meet, I've seen we need to put up a good front. I need to tell you, how are you doing? I'm great. How are you? I'm fine. And then see, we all know individually, we all have something about us we don't like, or something weird about us.
Yeah.
There's something which is incomplete, and we know it. But when we meet others, we know them only by what they present to us about themselves. So basically what's happening in the society is everybody's put up their best friend. And I'm like, oh, so I also need to put up an act. So just imagine a social situation where, I meet you and I say, Prabhu, I'm miserable in these 3 ways. How are you miserable? I'm miserable in these 2 ways. Great. So let us pray for each other. Hari bol, whatever. So what happens is this punctures the bubble that we're building around in our social interactions, being more authentic, because ultimately, if you really want a close relationship with someone, you can't really have deep, meaningful relationship with another human being unless that person knows something about you which he can use potentially to destroy you.
Wow.
I mean, in the sense, you need to be.
There needs to be that much vulnerability.
Exactly, but you can't do that. Of course, I agree. You can't just go around telling everyone about all your problems. That's not the point. The point I'm saying is, somewhere we need to enter that space of being authentic, being vulnerable, being honest in our social dealings, and then I think this world would be a much better place to live in. We'll all be empathetic to each other. We're all suffering, I read a book long time ago called. I didn't read it. I just skimmed through it. Wounded Healer. So his premise is he's a Harvard professor, he's a Dutch Christian priest. And 2015 I read this book a little bit. So his premise is when you are wounded, he went through a lot of depression, he went through a lot of struggles, loneliness and all of that. And he's a very successful preacher also. He says a wounded healer is the best healer. When you are authentic and when you're vulnerable and you express what you've gone through and you are at peace with yourself, and then you can help others. So let us all make this world a better place by being more authentic, honest, vulnerable.
Wow.
At least, if not to the whole world, at least to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your authenticity and vulnerability with us. And
Yeah, thank you so much.
really, it's I don't quite have the words, but I think we can all feel it sitting in this room right now.
Totally. I feel like I need to start journaling again, and because I want to be more like you. I feel like a lot of gratefulness and, or gratitude and just really like a lot of love. I feel a lot of love, even though we've just met. I just feel like just giving out a lot of love, and for a brahmachari, and it's. I know through the years it's probably been really hard living as a renunciate, but sometimes renunciation brings like very hard heart. But I feel like you have an extremely soft heart, and thank you so much for giving us that today.
Thank you, Namras Prabhu, Venkat Bhatt Prabhu. I really pray and hope that I can always be connected with both of you.
Thank you.
And if you're really pleased with me, please offer a sincere prayer that
Definitely.
I can serve without any ulterior motive, and I can please my Guru, I can please my God brothers and all the Vaishnavas.
Thank you so much.
Pray for you. You pray for me.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you want to get in touch with Vrajabihari Prabhu, do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website.
We'll put it in
yogaformodernage.com.
yogaformodernage.com. We'll put it in the description of this video when it comes out. But thank you again, Prabhu, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Venkat
you.
Bhatt
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
All right. Ariva.
Gratitude. I'm going to put it in my gratitude journal.
Krishna Hare